Today's ruling from the Supreme Court has sent ripples through Washington, global markets, and university classrooms alike. In a decision with major implications, the court has thrown out key tariffs imposed by Trump during his administration, raising urgent questions about presidential authority and the limits of executive power. And here I would like to interject that those three branches of the government, judicial, legislative, administrative, presidential, whichever one that is, Congress, and the courts, and they all have their own different duties. And frankly, raising tariffs is Congress, not the president. At Florida State University, professors in law, economics, and political science are already dissecting what this means. One core issue, they argue, isn't tariffs themselves, but who has the legal authority to impose them. For decades, Congress has delegated broad trade powers to the executive branch. Presidents of both parties have used tariffs as economic weapons, diplomatic tools, and political leverage. But this ruling signals that delegation may have gone too far. Legal scholars point out that the court reasoning suggests a renewed interest in enforcing separations of powers. Excellent. Yes, I agree with that. In other words, just because Congress allowed presidents flexibility doesn't mean that executives can act without clear limits. From an economic standpoint, professors note the decision could reshape how future administrations approach trade disputes. Tariffs are easy to impose and politically attractive, but legally fragile if not grounded with explicit congressional authorization. Supporters of the ruling argue this restores constitutional balance. They say unliberal tariff. They say unilateral tariffs distort markets, raise consumer prices, and bypass debt. Yes, all of that is so massively true. Critics warn the opposite. They argue that weakness, trade, yada, could leave us slower to respond, yada, economics. Yeah, they're just a bunch of blowhards not knowing what they're trying to convince us otherwise. Another concern raised by FSU economics is uncertainty. Businesses plan around trade rules. When tariffs are imposed, removed, then overturned by courts, instability becomes real cost. But really, the more instability is the unknowing that those trades are instability in the process of fixing an instability is a good thing. Professors also emphasize that decisions isn't just about one president. It's a set precedent that could restrict future administrations. Actually, good thing, regardless of party, from acting swiftly on trade without Congress stepping in. No, I think that we can. I think that we don't. Yeah. This raises a large political question. Is Congress prepared to reclaim that role, or will legislation, gridlock, make decisive trade policy even harder? The ruling also reopens debate over the so-called major questions doctrine, where courts demand clear authorization for sweeping executive action, and tariffs fall under that category. My God, that is a mouthful. Many other policies may follow. For students watching this unfold, professors say this is a textbook example of constitutional law colliding with real-world economics. And for voters, the takeaway is simple. A court's decision can quietly reshape policy long after elections are over. As WCTV Eyewitness News reports, this case may not be the final word. Congress could act, a future administration could test new boundaries, and the court may be asked again to decide where power truly lies. And that's what the court's job is. That's what their place is in the Constitution. That's what they do. But now, one thing is clear. The era of unchecked tariffs authority may be coming to an end. I so hope so. Anyway, with that, remember, I'm here telling it to you as it is, and that's Scott for 2028.